Okay, we're back. I'm having a little trouble with this recording software. I'm sorry, it's not showing me where to turn it off and on, so there's going to be a little lag at the end again where I have to figure out how to turn the darn thing off. So you can just stop it when you know it's done. You don't have to let it play all the way out. All right, we're moving to the second part of this, and again, the notion being that at media richness theory was so focused on the channels and what the channels contained that they weren't focusing on the way we use the channels and how that might affect the richness of the channels, the ability of the channels to be good communication devices, if you will. So I gave you two other articles to read. The first was this Managing Internal Communication. And again, as I mentioned, the studies themselves may have been a little bit confusing, but I think the information that they were presenting as it relates to media richness and how you can make channels in organizations better communication channels. So the key here is that our satisfaction in our communication using channels comes from attitudes, experience, and knowledge with the channel. So my experience with technology is going to influence, right, not only my ability to use it, but how well I think it communicates what I want it to communicate. And this communication satisfaction is really key in an organization because you've got to have people using the technology, not only inherently the technology's working, right, when it doesn't work like my software, that's frustrating, but also having a sense of positive attitude towards that technology, that it is going to be a good communication device. I have to trust that recording these lectures is going to work and help you learn these ideas. They also talk about the experience that we have with the channels. And that's not just the experience with the channel, it's the experience with the person who's communicating via that channel. It might be the experience with the topic that you're using that channel for. All of those things, right, go into how satisfied I might be with the use of that channel. See, the complexity here when you're looking at an organization is what task do you need to achieve? Why are you using that channel for that task? What is the best channel for that task for you to communicate what you need to communicate? So in this study, it was very interesting because they talked about internal satisfaction, how people felt about their use of a channel. And they used a Likert scale, right, an attitude scale that went, I think it was from 1 to 7. But what was interesting is if you look at, for example, the way people who had used the channel before, in this case they used video chat, right? Again, you see how old this is, even though it came out in 2020, right? The people that used the video chat, right, the mean on the Likert scale was at 4.9, and those who had not used the channel, right, had not used the video chat, and their attitude, their internal satisfaction with it was 3.8. So there's a difference because the people who had used it more liked it more, right? Not just liked it more, but they felt more comfortable with it as a communication device. And just as an aside, printed newsletters in terms of internal satisfaction on the use was even lower, right? So if you think about that, the printed newsletter, it was even between whether you had used it or not, right? Whether you use it or not, our perception of newsletters, because we're more familiar with it overall, right? Even if you haven't used it in your business. So the idea is, if we're going to ask people how satisfied they are, for example, with using Zoom, we have to realize that their familiarity with it, right, their experience with it, their knowledge of it, is going to influence their satisfaction level. Not just, so if it's unfamiliar to you, you're not going to like it as much. And then they also asked about, in terms of the quality of the communication, people's perceptions of how good the communication was. And then again, you see with video chats, if you've used video chats, your satisfaction with the quality was higher at 5.2 than if you hadn't used the chats, right? Then it was at 4.1. So both of these show you how our attitudes, our experience, our knowledge will influence the ability of the channel to provide a rich communication environment. We are going to be better at using the channel. We're going to be better at listening and interpreting what someone else is giving us, right, to the channel, and we're going to be more satisfied with it. So this is the idea. Our choice of channel is not just based on the channel itself, but based on our own preference for it. And that's important in terms of being good at communicating. The other thing that's interesting in this was that social information, and not the task itself, often influences the perception of media richness. And I think, again, this is very interesting, that the feeling that the channel, right, that you've used has been a good one for what you want to communicate is partly how you feel about the way the person comes across, and not just what task you're using. And you're going to see how that comes to play in this other article I gave you having to do with email research, right? So the idea being that the way you format the email, and if you include social information in it, oftentimes makes people feel that the email was a better form of communication versus somebody that sends an email that's very hard to follow and is very confusing. So again, I'm just going to summarize from this study because there was a lot in it. But here were the positives that they got from the email. So email as a communication channel, right, as a rich communication channel, right, is powerful because it has that reprocessability. What they're saying there is that I have the chance to read the email and I can ask you questions back. Now you're going to see some people thought that was a negative also. Rehearsability. Definitely, if I don't just slam off that email, right, I write the email, I look at what it says, I think about whether it says what I intended it to say, I reformat it to make sure it's clear. It has the ability to make sure the information is coming across, versus if I'm talking to you, I get sort of one shot at it. Convenience, because it's easy, it's there, it's available to us, and that there's some clarity over the delayed response because we have time to think about the ambiguity, right? Remember, ambiguity is a problem in media richness. So email oftentimes can provide a clear channel for communicating. And then they looked at the positives of the face-to-face. Immediate clarity through feedback, right? So look, first on positive of email, you can get clarity through a delayed response because sometimes we need to stop and think about things. And in face-to-face, there's a positive through immediate feedback. So it's kind of confusing depending on the task, right? The kind of feedback you need. So if you have a very difficult situation with people and a very negative situation and it's face-to-face, sometimes that is not good because the immediate feedback you're going to give may not be the well thought out answer. Whereas in an email, you have time to do that kind of delayed clarifying of what you want to say. However, the other positive of the face-to-face is what they call the affective enhancement, right? That you can motivate, you can convey in your leadership style, right, caring and interest, appreciation for the other person that doesn't always come out in something like an email, obviously. It's very hard to think of what could be affective cues that you can put into an email. Negative of an email, clarity, right? Lack of clarity. And this, by lack of clarity here, that's the sender, right? If somebody doesn't write an email clearly, if somebody doesn't lay out the ideas clearly, that creates the ambiguity and the confusion. Or if somebody doesn't produce enough information in the email, right, then it's an unclear email, then you have that uncertainty. So the email being a rich channel is reliant upon the person writing the email and their ability to use it. The lack of reliability in the sense that you don't always know that you're going to get the clear information, and then it's hard to get the feedback back. You have to keep going back and forth. And then it's impersonal, right? So if you don't have some of those affective cues in it, people feel a lack of connection through the email. But in the face-to-face situation, you also have negatives. The mood and emotions can disturb the communication process, as I mentioned before. That can oftentimes get in the way of people hearing what you're saying. And sometimes a difficult topic written in an email, right, comes across much clearer. And you, as we said earlier, you have no rehearsability in a face-to-face. So once you get it out there, if you haven't said it right, it can be misunderstood. So here's kind of what they found in their research. I'm just going to go through this. So there's some interesting concepts here, right? So clarity, that's that word, and we were using it over and over again, right? In an email, there are positives about clarity, right? Because you can be direct, you can be precise, right? You have time to make sure the words are saying what you want them to say, and that improves the clarity, right? But on the other side, emails can also be imprecise if the sender isn't clear, right? You can give information that's confusing and incorrect, and then that's time-consuming to go back and forth on the feedback on that. There can be misunderstandings and misinterpretations of what the words mean. And finally, it's not easy to directly question or directly provide reactions through the email. And then, as we're talking about leadership and how someone can convey themselves as a leader in a situation and communicating that, right? The friendliness, right? If you think of how you write the email and the wording of it, right, can convey friendliness, or it can be very impersonal. And so people's reactions to the style of the email, let's say, makes a big difference. And then reliability. The positive, right, of the reliability of email is, again, the instructions are recorded and they're retrievable, right? You can get information to people fast if they're there waiting for the email, right? But then you also have a time delay if you haven't seen the email that somebody sends out and there's a time-sensitive piece of information in there. Or the possibility of no answer, right? If you never saw the email at all, right? So what this shows you are some ideas and ways you can look at a channel. In this case, we're using email as the example to say how rich a communication channel is it for what tasks, and how can you help make that channel richer in a situation where it's being used. So let's summarize email as a channel. Originally, email was seen as a lean, right, channel, not a rich channel, right? But I argue that the type of use, right, can make the email channel seem richer, right? So the researchers are saying, oh, face-to-face is better. But that's not necessarily true. Depending on who's sending the emails, how they're framing the emails, the timeliness of the emails, right? All of these things can make the email richer. The quantity of the information, the clarity of the information, what we do with the email can make it a rich channel for communication. Okay, let's look at Zoom as a channel. You're going to do a lot of talking about the online face-to-face in your other class, I know, but I just want to talk about it in the same context of this media richness. Zoom was also seen as originally a lean channel, right? But we know that the bells and whistles that you have in Zoom create a richness. The shared screens, the ability to share screens and run videos and show people printed information, the breakout rooms, right? And the repeated use of Zoom seems to increase the richness as people get more familiar with it as a meeting space, if you will. And I thought this was interesting. This was in that article. They were citing another piece of research of Monzani et al. From 2014, that the perceived social loafing of fellow team members affects team cohesion and work satisfaction more negatively in virtual settings than face-to-face settings. In other words, we're much more conscious, it seems, in the Zoom setting of whether people are paying attention or not, whether people are distracted. And that can affect the way you feel about the team and the satisfaction you get out of the work that you're doing. And that's something I think we should talk about when we're together. All right, I'm going to show you another Zoom. This is a little slow, granted, but this is an interesting in how he uses Zoom to mediate. And you don't really get the understanding here that you have people that are selling a piece of land and people that want to buy it. And that can be a very tense negotiation. And what he's showing is a way he uses Zoom, and it's a very, I'm sure because he can't show the details of the meeting, but I just want you to see how he makes Zoom a richer environment.
Project to build a convention center on a piece of land owned by municipality. The members of team number 1, the real estate developer, are Alexander in Brazil, connected with APC, Tom in India, connected with a Mac, and Matt in the United States, connected with a Mac. The members of team number 2, the municipality, are Christina in the United States with a PC, Iran in India with a PC, Rachel in the United States with a PC, and Vicky in France with an iPhone. And I, Giuseppe, am the host of that meeting. I am in the United States and I'm connected with a Mac. First, I'm going to have a private meeting with the team leader of the municipality. Hi, Christina, and thank you for participating in our online meeting. You represent the team of the municipality, right? So you own a piece of land where there is an abandoned airport now. Is that correct? Correct. Okay. Now, I just wanted to double check with you that you and your team are ready to discuss this project today.
Yes, we are.
You're ready? Okay. So let me bring Alexander in, okay? Hi, Alexander. Can you... Hi. Alexander, you are the team leader of the real estate developer, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you already know Christina because you met in the past.
Hi, Christina. How are you?
Okay. Alexander, I wanted to check with you that your team is ready to discuss our project today.
Yes, we are ready.
You're ready, okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring everybody back, okay, because now they are on hold, and then we'll take it from there. Alexander, if you want, you can mute yourself.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right. So let me bring everybody back. Okay, so welcome everybody. And you know that each of you belongs to a different team. So Christina, Iran, Rachel, and Vicky are part of the team of the municipality that owns a piece of land. And Alexander, Tom, and Matt are part of the team of a real estate developer who would like to build something on that piece of land. Okay. Now, just to make sure that we're on the same page, I'm going to share with you a video showing an abandoned airport. Okay. So give me a second. So this is the airport that we are talking about. That is somewhere in the world, and as you can see, is not in a great shape. And this piece of land is owned by the municipality that today is represented by Christina's team, okay? As you can see, there is a lot of work to be done. So let's stop this. Okay, and let me show you something else. Let me show you of the convention center that Alexander team would like to build. Okay, so here is. Do you all see that there's an image on your screen? Okay, as you can see, is a pretty new, modern convention center with a lot of space, also for taking a nap, like these people here. All right. Okay. So let me clear this. Let me stop this. Okay. So now that we know which project we're talking about, I think it will be useful if I give each team the opportunity to brainstorm some ideas, ask some final questions. Okay? So I'm going to create 2 separate rooms for each team. And then I'm going to join each team, ask you if you have any final questions. Hopefully you will not have any questions. And then I'll bring you all back together. And then we will decide what is going to happen next. Okay? So let me create some breakout rooms. Okay? With Alexander, Matt, Tom, and then with Iran, Christina, Rachel, and Vicky. Okay? Well, I have a good news. It seems that both your teams are ready and go ahead with it. Okay? So what I like to suggest is that the next step is going to be a meeting in London in March at the Savoy Hotel to finalize the project. Okay? Christina also said that there are some details that she would like to discuss with Alexander, and that certainly can be done before the meeting. All right? Okay. So let me, if it's okay with you, I'm going to write up whatever you have agreed. Okay. So let me.
Okay.
Pull up a document, okay? And the document is going to be very easy. An agreement regarding this convention center project. As you can see, it's a very simple agreement, but that is what you have agreed. And Christina and Alexander will discuss and resolve any final issues before the above meeting. Are you all okay with this?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to convert this document into a PDF file, and I'm going to send it to you by email. Okay. All right. I think we're done, and thank you very much. So we'll see you all next month in London.
Okay.
Okay, so as I warned you, it's a little slow, but what I find fascinating about that is it shows you how you can create this richness in that Zoom situation. He showed you, and again, this was a demo, so obviously you didn't see the whole thing, but he was facilitating, right, between these two groups, and he utilized all the different tools in Zoom to make it rich. Now, I want to discuss this when we get together on Wednesday night, because I think there are some things like You didn't see any nonverbal reactions from people. It was very hard to know how they were reacting. You didn't get a sense that people were listening. But I want to talk about how to make that, what was rich in that and what wasn't. Okay, so let's summarize where we've gone here. I think it's important to think about, right, what channels are being used by the leadership in an organization, right, and to assess them on, are they the right channels for the task, and are they the richness of the channel, right, matches the task that needs to be done. Is there an overuse of a channel? Because sometimes, like with email, we use it for everything because it's just so convenient. And do we have to take a step back and again realize that there are channels for different tasks in an organization that might be more appropriate? What's the task focus, right? That the type of task, is it hiring? Is it a mediation? Is it a strategic meeting? What is the task, and then which channels are going to be the richest for that task? What are the time needs? How quickly does the task have to be completed? And I think we know that no channel is all bad and good. We make the channel rich depending on how we use it. Employees' own perception of the channels are important in whether that channel is going to work or not. And then finally, the use of channels between employees, right, is also critical. Understanding the way employees communicate with each other, not just formally with management, right, but just with each other. And that's where we're going to go in the next lecture, okay, when we talk about informal communication and informal patterns that evolve. And again, we can look at the roles that employees play. So what I tried to do with this particular lecture is suggest to you that an analysis of a communication channel and how it's being used, right, will help improve the way an organization is completing tasks, because you're using channels that they can communicate the best they can with. Now, in this day and age, obviously, what we're really focusing on is how do we create virtual channels that complete the tasks that we need completed. Okay, here's the worksheet I want you to do. And again, because I'm stuck in a situation where getting these videos out to you has been really difficult this time, and I'm going to write this in the email, but also I'm not going to give you an actual worksheet. I just want you to take this and you type it up and hand it in. I think that's easier than you downloading a particular worksheet and then having to upload it again. What I want you to do for next Wednesday is choose a channel from an organization you're familiar with. That can be email, it can be face-to-face, it can be even Zooms, right? Pick 2 examples of the use of that channel. So 2 emails or 2 email exchanges, 2 specific meetings, right? And then I want you to analyze those 2 examples for the following things. How much clarity is there, right, in the way that channel was used? And go back to the email PowerPoint piece and see how we talk about clarity, right? Remember, clarity being how ambiguous is the information that's being transmitted? How did it come across in the channel? How much reliability is there? Okay, is the channel reliable in its accuracy? Is it reliable in for the timing that is needed? Right? How much uncertainty is there in that channel? Uncertainty being confusion with the information, right? And how much ambiguity is there in the channel, right? And then summarize for me your decision on how rich this particular channel was for this task in this organization. All right, I'm looking forward to seeing you on Wednesday and talking to you about this stuff. I will send you the PowerPoints. Hopefully these things are going to get loaded, and thank you for listening.